So basically today I hope to start a new sutta, and it is called the sheep of barley, Yavakalapi Sutta. And I have covered this at several other places. For example, in Kalalgoda meditation retreat I have used this same sutta. It's a very interesting and very profound sutta, and particularly dealing with the proliferation, conceptual proliferation, conceiving, overthinking, and this is deeply analyzed in this sutta. So I thought of going through it slowly, and again if you all are capable of reading Sinhala, there is a book published based on this sutta called Navatuna Sita. Navatuna Sita book is published based on this sutta, Yavakalapi Sutta. That is actually based on a retreat conducted at Nissarana Vanaya couple of years ago, and those Dhamma sermons are included in that book, Navatuna Sita, and I'll put it to the chat later. And if you all can visit Nissarana Vanaya website, you can go to Sinhala publications, and there you can find the book Navatuna Sita, and there may be copies available at Nissarana Vanaya. You can find that as well. And this is a very interesting sutta. And before going to the deep content, so Buddha give a kind of a simile about a sheaf of barley. So probably you have seen barley and you might have consumed barley, but so how they are being prepared is basically by harvesting them and then taking them to a particular place, a farmhouse, and then in good old days they have used something called flail to smash them, to thrash them. So there's a beautiful picture of that shown here. This is the so that picture I just want to show you. So this something called flail. So it has a kind of a stick, and then at the end of the stick there's a little part which can come and trash the harvest. So when we gather the harvest of this whatever the wheat or any kind of this sort of grain, so using the flail, so these people are used to smash it, to hard in a very strong way to smash it, and then as a result of that, it slowly its harvest can be collected, the grain can be collected. Now Buddha is giving an example of this situation. Now let's get into the sutta. Bhikkhus, suppose a sheaf of barley was set down at a crossroad. Now everything is gathered and kept in the crossroad. Then 6 men would come along with flails in their hands, and they would strike that sheaf of barley with the 6 flails. Now not just one person, but there are 6 people. All are having a flail, and using that they are smashing, they are striking the sheaf of barley. Thus that sheaf of barley would be well struck, having been struck by the 6 flails. So then basically we can understand it is slowly all the barley seeds, the grain, will get thrashed and properly striked, and as a result of that they become more and more very much like powdered. And then Buddha adds another thing. Then a 7th man would come along with a flail in his hand, and he would strike that sheaf of barley with a 7th flail. So not just 6, but now he is adding another one. He too comes with the flail, and he too strikes the sheaf of barley. Thus that sheaf of barley would be struck even still more thoroughly, having been struck by the 7th flail. Now you can imagine this situation. So in those days, using the flails, people are coming and smashing, striking the sheep of barley. As a result of that, all these sheep of barley become very much like properly struck. Everything become almost like powdered. Now Buddha connects it with the mind. So too bhikkhus, the uninstructed worldling is struck in the eye by agreeable and disagreeable forms, struck in the ear by agreeable and disagreeable sounds, struck in the nose by agreeable and disagreeable odors, struck in the tongue by agreeable and disagreeable taste, struck in the body by agreeable and disagreeable tactile objects, struck in the mind by agreeable and disagreeable mental phenomena. Now these are the 6. So we all know that the 6 senses. So each and every flail is a kind of a correspondence to the outside objects. With eyes we see various visual objects, various forms. With the ears we can hear various sounds. With the nose we can recognize various odors. With tongue we come across various tastes. And then with the body we come across various tactile objects, tangibles. Now these are the 5 physical senses. But not only through the 5 physical senses we can add the mind itself. So the mind also come across various mental objects, and again various mental objects comes to the mind. Now you can imagine the situation. All these 6 senses are being used to correspond with the outside world, and it is like very much again and again being this particular being being bombarded. So he can't simply stay calm, rather again and again eye being struck with the various forms, visuals, ear being struck with various sounds, nose being struck with various odors. So likewise, all these 6 senses are being again and again subjected to some sort of a disturbance, some sort of a triggering, some sort of striking. Now you can imagine how Buddha is very much like arranging a simile to this sense interaction with the outside world with this mashing of the barley sheaf. So barley ultimately become almost like powdered, and it's a real smashing situation, a kind of a striking situation to the whatever this barley, and these 6 people are again and again striking it. Similarly for the person also, again and again various sights, sounds, smells, tastes, tangibles and mental objects again and again strike. Ultimately they go and disturb the mind. So we can, in another sense, we can consider ultimately the whole impact being gathered at the mind. So that is explained at another sutta, Unnaba Brahmana Sutta. So, but anyway, we'll discuss that later during the discussion if necessary. And here the idea is again and again the mind being sort of disturbed through the eye, ear, nose, body and even the mind objects, through the mind objects. But interestingly, Buddha is talking about the 7th person. Again he comes and smash in the barley, strike in the barley sheaf, and then who is that 7th person? So that is interestingly explained here. If that uninstructed worldling sets his mind upon future renewed existence, then that senseless man is struck even still more thoroughly, just like the sheep of barley struck by the 7th flail. Now the 7th person is very much like indicated an additional proliferation, that he is thinking about the future lives, and that thinking is considered as another additional type of overthinking. Now, typically mind may come across various mental objects, but here this particular person purposely, intentionally thinking too much about the future existence. What will happen to me in the future? What will going to be in the future? Who am I will be in the future? So likewise, so he is thinking too much about the future, his renewed existence, too much about the rebirth. So that becomes another additional burden to the mind. So basically, so we can see the mind being bombarded, mind being disturbed, again and again being struck by sight, sound, smells, taste, tangibles and the mental objects, and in addition to that, various planning, various dreaming, various proliferation. Now this is the first simile Buddha discussed in this sutta. So you can see where Buddha is keeping us into the track. Instead of telling, okay, you better use these senses and enjoy the senses, enjoy sight, sound, smells, tangibles, instead he is looking at it from a different angle. Now it is because of our good karma that we got these senses, and these senses may be healthy, and in that sense we are fortunate. But on the other hand, there is an issue that sometimes these, whatever the sight, sound, smells, taste, tangibles and mental objects are sometimes agreeable, sometimes disagreeable. So as a result of that, our mind being thoroughly influenced, greatly influenced. So we sometimes become angry, sometimes become happy, sometimes become confused, sometimes become stressed, sometimes become burdened, sometimes become joyful. So likewise our situation, mental state become very vulnerable as a result of this fluctuation, as a result of this interaction. So that is the kind of a thing that we need to understand. And there are various other similes also Buddha has used. Now probably you can think of Chappanaka Sutta. In Chappanaka Sutta, Buddha gives another way of explanation. So what happened to this mind? Now here Buddha gives the explanation based on this striking of sheep of barley using 7 flails. Now explaining like this, now we can get a kind of a picture. So our mind being constantly bombarded by various sight, sound, smell, taste, it is not a smooth, relaxed experience, rather it's a kind of a disturbance. You can understand what we are talking here when you start meditating. So when you start meditating, various sights can become a disturbance. So we close our eyes. Various sounds become a disturbance. So we find a place which is fairly quiet, and various odors can be very disturbing. So we go to a place where there is no such disturbing odor, and we are not eating anything at that moment. We are trying to keep our mouth closed and not particularly disturbing anyone in that way. And the body also kept calm, quiet, and we sit cross-legged and trying to keep the body also in a still posture without much disturbance. And now we are trying to calm down the mind without allowing it to think too much. So in one sense we understand, so this is our goal, but still we understand how disturbing these sight, sound, smells, taste, tangibles, even though sometimes we can't see through our eyes, certain visualizations even can pop up in the mind. So likewise, all these things are, in a way we can look at from that angle, are sort of a disturbance to the mind, a nonsense to the mind, a kind of a obstacle to the mind. And now while keeping this in our mind, so let's keep this simile in our mind and let's move forward. And now Buddha gives another simile. Now this sutta, even though it is so profound, is giving kind of a picture to us. So what's really going on and how he is trying to communicate to us from a different angle. Rather than immediately jump into the theoretical stuff, any kind of very profound teaching, he first takes us into a very beautiful simile and then slowly get into the content of the sutta. Now he is giving another simile. Once in the past, because the Devas and the Asuras were arrayed for battle. Now there was a very old incident. There was a war between Devas and the Asuras. And then Vepachitti, Lord of the Asuras, addressed the Asuras. Good sirs, if in this impending battle, the Asuras win and the Devas are defeated, bind Sakka, Lord of the Devas, by his 4 limbs and neck, and bring him to me in the city of the Asuras. Now, Asuras typically mentioned are associating the ocean, and they are with mighty bodies. Now they are the ones going to battle with these Devas, celestial beings. Asuras themselves are not typical humans, but they are with some powers, and in a way they are a type of celestial beings, a group of celestial beings. Now they are 2 groups. Now they are against each other and now going to fight, and Vepachitti addressing his folk, and he is telling, okay, you guys should defeat the Devas, and their leader, the god Sakka, should be captured and bring to the city of the Asuras. And then similar instruction being given by the god Sakka to his retinue. Good sirs, if in this impending battle the Devas win and the Asuras are defeated, bind Vepachitti, Lord of the Asuras, by his 4 limbs and neck, and bring him to me in the Sudhamma, the assembly hall of the Devas. Now Devas are assembling to a particular place called Sudhamma, that is their assembly place. So he is instructing his retinue, okay, you guys should defeat these Asuras and bring the Lord of the Asuras, his name is Vepachitti, and bind him using 5 places, and then take him to the Sudhamma, to the assembly hall. Now then Buddha just summarize what has happened. In that battle the Devas won and the Asuras were defeated. So after the battle, Devas won, Asuras were defeated. Then the Tavatinsa Devas bound Vepachitti by his 4 limbs and neck and brought him to Sakka in Sudhamma, the assembly hall of the Devas. Now what happened was, Devas won, Asuras were defeated, and Devas were able to capture the Lord of the Asuras, the Vepachitti, and he being bound on 5 places, 4 limbs and the neck. Now he was taken to the Sudhamma, the assembly hall. In that battle, the Devas won and the Asuras were defeated. Then Tavatinsa Devas bound Vepachitti by his 4 limbs and neck and brought him to Sakka. Now this is where the interesting part. When it occurred to Vepachitti, the Devas are righteous, the Asuras are unrighteous. Now right here, I have gone to the city of the Devas. He then saw himself freed from the bonds around his limbs and neck, and he enjoyed himself furnished and endowed with the 5 cords of divine sensual pleasure. But when it occurred to him, the Asuras are righteous, the Devas are unrighteous, now I will go there to the city of the Asuras. Then he saw himself bound by his 4 limbs and neck, and he was deprived of the 5 cords of divine sensual pleasure. Now the interesting thing here is the way of thinking. How the Lord of the Asuras, that Vepachitti, how he would think. Now he being Asura, most probably he may think, okay, Asuras are good, Asuras are righteous. But the Devas are not righteous, they are unrighteous. So I want to escape from Devas and I want to go back to Asura realm, Asura's city. So that would be his typical way of thinking pattern. whenever he thinks like that, so his binding become more and more tightened, and he is deprived from all the divine pleasures, and he being bound. But on the other hand, very rarely it could happen where he might think, okay, devas are righteous, asuras are unrighteous, let me stay with the devas. And then the opposite thing can happen. All the bindings are unbound, and then he may sort of furnish with all the sense pleasures, all the heavenly pleasures, and he will be freed from the bondage. But this very rarely would happen, because if that is the case, then he doesn't want to go to the battle with the devas. Instead, what the typical way of thinking is that he, being an asura, he may think, okay, asuras are good, asuras are righteous, devas are unrighteous, so I want to escape. So this would be the typical way of thinking. But whenever he thinks like that, he again and again being bound by the 5 places. Now basically, so we can understand the thinking is the real bondage here. Thinking determines, thinking decides either he is freed or bound. Simple as that. Either the Vepachitti, the lord of the asuras, either he is freed or he further being bound, is completely decided by the way of thinking. Now, after telling that, so this interesting simile, now Buddha takes it to the Dhamma. So subtle bhikkhus was the bondage of the Vepachitti, but even subtler than that is the bondage of the Mara. Now he is taking the whole teaching to the practice. He is saying, okay, so this Vepachitti's bondage is very, very subtle, because it is not that he being bound using chains and ropes and etc. Instead, his way of thinking is the real cause for him to be bound. It's so subtle. But now Buddha is saying the Mara's bondage even subtler than the Vepachitti's bondage. In conceiving, one is bound by Mara. By not conceiving, one is freed from the evil one. Now this is a very, very interesting statement made by the Buddha. Manyamano bhikkhave baddho marassa amanyamano mutto papimato. Manyamano ko bhikkhave baddho marassa amanyamano mutto papimato. When one is conceiving, then he is bound by the Mara. If one is not conceiving, he is freed from the evil one. Simple as that. So it is not that we have to go to the battle with Mara or find any shell to protect from him or prepare a very strong weapon to beat the Mara. Instead, we ourselves are the ones ignorantly being captured by the Mara. So that's very, very interesting. So the Buddha's solution is not preparing a weapon or going to the battle with the Mara, rather how to tame the mind. So if we are thinking in one particular way, we being bound by the Mara. We are a poor victim of the Mara. We become a poor victim of the Mara. On the other hand, if we are wise and properly control our thinking, handle our thinking, calm down our thinking, then basically we can be free from the Mara. Now this whole sutta is now going to explain the very interesting theoretical stuff and how mind being sort of start thinking. Now here actually Buddha talks about 9 prepositions. to explain this. 9 prepositions are being used to explain this, and let me show you that. Now these 9 prepositions: I am this, I shall be, I shall not be, I shall consist of form, I shall be formless, I shall be percipient, I shall be non-percipient, I shall be neither percipient nor non-percipient. Asmiti, ayang ahang asmiti, bhavissanti, na bhavissanti, rupi bhavissanti, arupi bhavissanti, sanyi bhavissanti, asanyi bhavissanti, neva sanyi, na sanyi bhavissanti. Now it appears like a little difficult for us, but this is what we think. So all our thinking can be fairly explained using these 9 examples. I am. So this is a very, very subtle conceit that we all have. So I am someone, I am somebody, I am an individual, I am a being, I am a person, I am a male, I am a female. So likewise we have this ignorant self-based reference. So this self-based reference, so every time I am available, I am sitting, I am standing, I am talking, so I am listening. So I am is the center of our thinking in a way. So if someone is asking, okay, what is the center of the whole world? So the world is prepared using our mind, and the center is I am. So Asmi is very much like the center of our whole measuring. So we constantly measure ourselves with the others. We constantly compare ourselves with the others. So the center position, what we use is myself. I am. With respect to I am, we are the other person. So likewise, I am is a conceiving. It is not something really a beneficial thing. Rather, it helps the Mara to bind us, Mara to capture us. But interesting thing is, our whole education system, our whole upbringing, our whole education, that everything is based on this center position. So once we are born, basically we didn't have a name, and then we were given a name, and slowly our mother, father, teachers, friends, all are quite helpful to establish this center position. And they are very much like again and again helping us to prepare this center position. And then we become strongly a person, an individual, a being, a male, a female. So likewise, now a name is also given. I am so and so. So basically this I am being thoroughly established as we are growing. So very much like at the beginning we didn't have a very strong self-reference, but as we continue, it is being grown. So the young, the infant have the capacity to prepare that self-reference. So he is not an arahant. The newborn baby is not an arahant, but he has the potential to prepare a strong self-view. So that is what he is doing. His parents and all the others help him to prepare that self-reference, self-centered thinking. So I am is the very, very subtle, very shortened and most primordial way of I-centered thinking. I am. I am this. So I am this. Okay, I am a doctor. I am an engineer. I am a monk. I am sick. And okay, I am an accountant. Now all these, there is another position, a designation, a name. I am Nimal. I am Venerable Chandaratana. So all these designations, all these names, all these labels are also another preposition, and it is, at the first case, Buddha say it is a conceiving, it's a manyana. I am this. So every time we are using these things. So it is very, very subtle, and we can't think without this. That's the bottom line. So in order to think, we need all this. So at least very subtle, very primordial, very shortened, I am this, being used for our thinking. So I am the subject, I am the person, I am the individual, and with respect to you, okay, I am a monk, I am this, I am Venerable Chandaratana. So we have a name, we have a label. So you all can think about how you all are doing this self-referencing. So we give a name, we give a label, we give a designation, we give a job description, all that being used for this I am this. I shall be. Now this is with respect to the future. I shall be. So I shall win the race. I shall become an arahant. I shall be the president. I shall be the first in the classroom. I shall get a promotion. I shall leave the home. So all these planning, all these future related plans, dreaming, fantasizing, all that are centered based on I, centered based on a self. And we ignorantly think that there is an existing self. So for us, when we are thinking, so it's an existing self. We never think that we are preparing a self. Instead, we keep on thinking, okay, there is an existing self. So I am here. I am existing. So this existing I now want to do something in the future. And he is planning. And he is wishing. He is fantasizing. So that all are a type of manjana, type of conceiving. And this I is a solid I. This I is a compact body. This I is something sort of a large thing, large one unit. I shall not be. The opposite, the not be part. So you want to do something or you don't want to do. So I don't want to talk. I am angry with someone, so I don't want to talk. So I shall not do that job. I shall not use that path. Okay, I shall not get into a trouble. So likewise, I shall not be in that house. I shall never go to that place. I shall never visit him. So likewise, we can, the negation side also can be considered, but that too is a self-based, a being-based. There is a being, there is a self, there is I. So this I is now trying to think, okay, I shall not exist, I shall even, I shall not exist. So that is also another interesting thing. Say sometimes people want to commit suicide. But still I is there. A person is there. So if someone is ignorantly thinking, okay, if everything is based on I, so let me kill the I. Let me do the suicide. But still the same thing. I still exists. So existing I, he is now trying to kill. That is also completely ignorant. So I shall not be still is his way of interpretation, but still he is being captured. He is being captured by the Mara. Even though he is trying to be free from Mara, whatever the disturbance, whatever the bad experience that he is going through, now he is trying to escape, but unfortunately he is being captured. Because the existing I, he is now trying to annihilate. So this annihilation is not the solution in that sense. I shall consist of form, rupi bhavissanti. So basically here, so we, with respect to our appearance, okay, let me be happy, or let me be beautiful, let me sort of have a beautiful form, beautiful body. So you all can think of, now say if you are dyeing your hair, okay, you can think of, okay, let me have a very beautiful hair. Let me have some healthy teeth, brighter teeth. So okay, I consists of some sort of outer appearance, with respect to some sort of outer appearance. So we can attach the self-referencing. We can attach the I-centered thinking. I shall be formless, the opposite. I want to be free from this bad appearance. I want to avoid any kind of bad appearance. So likewise, people can think of many different ways, the opposite side, and there again and again, still with respect to the appearance, either you want to become some sort of form, or you don't want to become some sort of a form. Still there is I existing. That's why even the formless state is not a solution. Even though one want to overcome the form, still the existing I is the one who is now trying to become formless. Still I is existing. I shall be formless, arupi bhavissanti. Still I is there. I shall be percipient, sanyi bhavissanti. So our minds are constantly come across various signs, various kinds of recognitions. So I want to have some sort of a label. I want to have some sort of a designation. I want to have some sort of a name. I want to recognize in some form of a way among the others. So all the names, all the labels, all the designations, all are very much into the some sort of a perception, some sort of a sanyi, a percipient level. Still I existing. I am the one going to have that state. The opposite, non-percipient, same thing. Now he want to get rid of the existing perception, and still I existing, so still he being captured. I shall be neither percipient nor non-percipient. Still I existing. So this is the most subtlest state, where the existence or non-existence of the perception is very much like very, very subtle. It's difficult to even determine, but still I exist. So these are the 9 most primordial type of propositions that Buddha has explained here. Now these 9 propositions are explained at each different level of this sutta. So the basic idea is, now this sutta talks about 5 preliminary reasons for propositions. Now these propositions are being prepared in 5 different ways, and five causes or five mechanisms are there to prepare these propositions. So let's take the very first one, the manjana or the manjita. Points to the thought, activity or imagination, basically. So here the thought, activity or imagination which gives rise to those propositions. Imagining, conceiving, points to the thought, activity or imagination which gives rise to those propositions. So let's take the Pali part. Asmiti bhikkhave manyita metang. Ayang ahang asmiti manyita metang. Rupi bhavissanti manyita metang. Now we are taking only the very first one today. Manyita. Asmiti bhikkhave manyita metang, ayang ahang asmiti manyita metang, bhavissanti manyita metang, na bhavissanti manyita metang, rupi bhavissanti manyita metang. So likewise, all those 9 propositions now Buddha using the term conceiving, imagination, manyita. So manyana is very, very subtle imagination that the mind is enjoying in a way, ignorantly enjoying. So we imagine that there is a person, we imagine that there is an individual, we imagine there is a self, and so we constantly keep on conceiving. I am is a conceiving, I am this is a conceiving, I shall be is a conceiving, I shall not be is a conceiving, I shall consist of form is a conceiving, I shall be formless is a conceiving, I shall be percipient is a conceiving, I shall be non-percipient is a conceiving, I shall be neither percipient nor non-percipient, no percipient is a conceiving, no non-percipient is a conceiving. Now those 9 propositions now Buddha used based on very particular kind of thought preparation that is called manyita, conceiving. So basically the idea is, so we have the ignorant understanding, wrong understanding that there is a person here, there is an individual here, there is a subject here. So it is solid, I am so on, I am someone, and so this individual is now thinking. This solid person, this solid self is now thinking, okay, I am this, I shall be, I shall not be. So likewise he is thinking. So this type of thinking is a type of conceiving, a type of manyana. So what is Buddha's advice? So Buddha's advice is very interesting. Manyitam bhikkhave rogo. Monks, this conceiving is a disease. Conceiving is a disease. Conceiving is a tumor. Manyitam gando. Conceiving is a dart. Manyitam sallang. Manyitam rogo, manyitam gando, manyitam sallang. Conceiving is a disease, conceiving is a tumor, conceiving is a dart. Therefore, bhikkhus, you should train yourselves thus. We will dwell with a mind devoid of conceiving. Tasmatiha bhikkhave amanyamanena cetasa viharissamati evaṃ hivo bhikkhave sikkhitabbam. So this is the advice. Tasmatiha bhikkhave amanyamanena cetasa viharissamati evaṃ hivo bhikkhave sikkhitabbam. So after explaining all this, giving 2 very strong similes, Buddha is now summarizing, okay monks, conceiving is a disease, conceiving is a tumor, conceiving is a dart. Try to maintain yourself, try to live without conceiving, without imaginations. This is how you should train yourself. Now this is the very, very interesting part. So can we live without conceiving? Can we live without imaginations? So that's the challenge. So you can understand to what a subtle level Buddha has taken us in the thinking. Now we all are thinking not at this very subtle level. We are thinking on very, very sophisticated, completely complex, very complicated, confusing levels that we are thinking. And we can see how much we are being bound to the Mara. We can see how much we are being captured by the Mara when overthinking is going on, conceptual proliferation is going on, based on this I-centered thinking, self-centered thinking. So we are far away far away of this level. So Buddha is taking us to the very subtle level and even asking us to stop that. But we may be thinking at a very far away, we can't even imagine how to come to this subtle level, because I am at a very gross level of thinking, overthinking, too much thinking, obsessive kind of thinking. Now the whole practice in a way is for us to slowly come to this subtle level, and then only we maybe come to a level, okay, at least time to time our mind is free from conceiving. Currently our mind may be too much thinking, overthinking, proliferating, all that may be going on. So we are very far away from this subtle teaching. But as a result of the mindfulness practice, as a result of the vipassana practice, as a result of the samatha practice, we can achieve at least time to time very calm, relaxed, silent state of mind. Say for example, before we get into a kind of very profound vipassana practice, assume that you simply practice walking meditation. So your mind may be too much thinking, okay, but doesn't matter. So I'm going to walk. So you walk from this end to the other end, but now you slowly trying to establish mindfulness in the body. Still mind is thinking. Mind keeps on thinking. Mind keep on thinking based on the I. Doesn't matter. But what we do is again and again establish mindfulness at our feet. So as we continue that, so that proliferation, that conceiving become a little weaker as a result of the establishment of the mindfulness. Because that vicious pattern, vicious cycle being disturbed again and again at the moment when we establish mindfulness. So establishing mindfulness is so powerful in that sense. It's giving a blow to this ongoing vicious cycle. Assume that you are now successful in this exercise, and now you can at 10 instances you can establish mindfulness at your feet. At 20 instances that you can establish your mindfulness. So likewise, if you are able to develop mindfulness, so what happens is, so that ongoing thinking become weaker and weaker, and one day you can accomplish a situation where you can continuously walk while keeping your attention on the feet without allowing the mind to wander. So using the samatha approach in that sense, by using a particular kind of a bodily object, bodily phenomena, we can bound the mind without allowing it to going astray. So at that level you may feel a complete relaxation. You may feel a very kind of temporary relaxation, because till you are able to bound your mind to this simple bodily activity, what we call the walking, now mind is not wandering. Same thing is true with the mindfulness on breathing. So again and again you are paying your attention to the breath, in breath, out breath, in breath, out breath. So again and again you are paying attention to that. So what happens ultimately is that the mind settles with breath, abandoning the thinking. So the mind abandoned thinking, but it is now bound to the breath. Doesn't matter. That is at least somewhat okay compared to the overthinking. So mindfulness on breathing is very recommended practice for overthinking. So to avoid overthinking, to abandon overthinking, you can practice anapanasati, mindfulness on breathing. And it's a very recommended practice for overthinking. Now, if you are able to do that, so you may understand, okay, during that period, when your mind is extremely calm and bound to the breathing phenomena, breathing experience, now mind is not thinking. Rather, mind has become fairly silent. We can say temporarily a fair amount of conceiving is abandoned, but still latent tendency is there. The moment that the mind being released from the released from the breath, again it may jump to the old pattern of thinking. So that is because of the existing defilements, existing latent tendencies. So still we haven't answered the solution, or we haven't really answered the real problem. We rather temporarily suppress the thinking by means of establishing mindfulness on breath, establishing mindfulness on the feet. So it's a kind of a temporary solution. But we need to go to a proper solution using Vipassana meditation to come across a proper solution. We can discuss those later. But the point to understand is how deeply that Buddha analyzed this question, but we still today covered only the first section, that is the conceiving part. So with that, I like to conclude today's Sutta teaching session, and now I like to open the session for questions.
Very good. Thank you, Bhante. So if anybody have any questions, please raise their hands and we'll give the priority as it comes. I don't see any hands have been raised, Bhante, as this time. So until somebody bring up their questions, I thought I might as well get the opportunity to ask some questions. So it is very interesting talking about this 6 and then the additional 1, which is the 7th person, which I have not understood before. Today I sort of understood that. It is purely about planning, I guess. It's talking about the way that I understood. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And I always thought about these 6 senses and then getting these speeds into us, analyzing, and sometimes we don't see that and we come into this proliferation without any thoughts per se. But I think the 7th person here is sort of in our mind. We plan ahead. As a child, you probably sort of sit for exam, you want to get through that, and so what you have been taught, even in the adult life, you want to plan what your future is going to be, and etc. And then sometimes you think about what your work arena, and then you got to plan with these as well. And in this context, it is going to be always a challenge and how to overcome that.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought of bringing that question as well.
Yeah, that is true. So that is why, so this is actually a deep sutta. We can't immediately apply to the, to the daily practice unless we are into the Chittanupassana, Dhammanupassana level. We may be practicing it in a different way when we are practicing Kayanupassana, because we are ignoring the thinking and we establishing mindfulness to the body. We haven't really confront the thinking or try to analyze the thinking. Rather, we try to bind our mind to the body. So that is a strategy that we are using at the early stage. No harm. So that is necessary, because mind is continuously thinking and keep on getting to the ignorant way of imagination. So what we do is we use the body as an anchor to the wandering mind. But still the tendencies are all available. So the moment that we stop the practice, the moment that we allow the mind to wander, it keeps going on to that old pattern, old track. That can't help. So because we haven't yet given a proper solution. But in the Vipassana practice, as we continue, so all these subtle nuances in our thinking can be slowly understood. So as a help that Buddha has given this very interesting sutta, so what are the different nuances in our thinking? So the very first wrong imagination is that I accept there is a person here, there is a self here, there is I here, there is an individual here. So this wrong notion is the center point. I am is the center point for all type of thinking. I am a good person, I am a bad person. So all that, the I-centered thinking becomes the center of our thinking, center of our working. The whole mind is operating based on this center I. And this is the center of the universe for us. So I am here with respect to me, where you are. Now I am in Sri Lanka, okay, Geshan is in USA. So we have this subject-object division, duality, based on this I. So I am here and you are there. So the subject and object. So this dualistic way of handling things is the very basic pattern of our thinking. So this subject is in a way the kind of the culprit. So how to recognize this subject? So whenever subtle thinking is going on, are we capable of recognizing the hidden I? Sometimes the content is talking about something very, very gross, but internally there is a hidden I. Under the carpet there is an I. So immediately we can't come to that actually. So what we can do at first is simply to calm down the mind. Okay, you use your practice, the mindfulness practice, to calm down the mind. Okay, at least allow the mind to think one after the other, one thought after the other thought. At first even that is difficult because so much of thinking, too much of thinking. But that too much of thinking has to be slowed down using the practice. So one day you may come across a situation, okay, now the mind is thinking one thought and then another thought, one thought and another thought. Then you can get a kind of an understanding using the thinking. So these thoughts are the ones actually we talk as thinking. It is not thinking as one object, rather thinking is made up of so much of thoughts. And thought itself is not a noun, rather it's a little activity. Thought is an activity. Now through our wise investigation, very careful investigation only, we can understand, okay, thought is an activity in the mind. So when these activities are happening in a rapid succession, now we talk it as thinking. We represent it as thinking. And we imagine as I am thinking. And that thinking, actually even we can't even understand like that. I am thinking is still more advanced. But how we get trapped is, all that thinking is going on, so I am a mere victim of that process. So that is where we typically stay. That is where the completely untrained, ignorant mind stay, where the mind is thinking and this person is becoming a entirely helpless victim of that very process. He can't even understand how to come out of that. So the practice helps us to at least decenter ourselves. So there the idea is, okay, you can step back of the process. You step out of the process and there you can see, okay, there's a thinking going on. So you can be aware of thinking. Previously we can't even be aware of thinking. Thinking becomes the very nature of the mind, norm of the mind. But now, the moment that we establish mindfulness, we step out of the thinking and we can recognize thinking. There is thinking going on. That knowing part is very crucial. Now you have the capacity to know the thinking. It is not that you are thinking and you are trapped in thinking, you are a poor victim of thinking. Rather, you are able to see thinking. You are able to observe thinking. You are very much at the knowledge level. You are at a very different tier you are working now. You have taken a different vantage point, and so you can look at thinking going on. Something like that. So the practice is completely, or rather extremely helpful to have this vantage point.
Yes, Bhante. I get it. And so I think I also have sort of seen this very clearly during the meditation. And there is this third person as externally that you have to sort of, that is the best way that I can describe, I guess, sort of doing certain type of activity. And of course, not there are days that you're not doing meditation, but sometimes the proliferation sort of happens, and then with certain times you got to remind yourself, Gishan, stop. And that's it, and it just comes to a halt. So it is
But still Geshan exists. So you are addressing to Geshan.
Exactly. Right. Yes. And that is the part that I'm still trying to overcome. But I can see two hands have been raised, so I'll give the opportunity to Vitarana. You can raise, unmute.
Okay, sir. Bhante, can you hear me?
Yes.
I have a question. I don't know if it's maybe, I guess, a very hard question to answer. So I'm learning, I'll say I just to say learning this path and how Buddha is trying to teach us this way. So in a way, as you said, that I part is the one that trying to see that there's no I, right? So that's the part going through, right? But the problem for me sometimes comes, right? Because I have a little one, right? Now, when let's say, so they're small, right? So I see the differences when they are growing up. Earlier, as a little child, when they were growing up, they didn't recognize their name, right? So we gave them a name and kept on reminding that's their name. They started saying their names. Say, for example, this name by referring to yourself with that name rather than I, right? But now slowly they started changing to using I, right? But in a way, this is conflicting to me, right? Because I'm like, in a way, I'm trying to break that. But in the other hand, I am sort of teaching them to get more into that center point of thinking, because that's the day-to-day life. I mean, they have to school, they have to, they have to learn, learn ways of society, right? So this is the conflicted. So is there any sort of advice, or because are they too small? Like, I mean, they're like 4 years, right? So it's too small to even introduce a concept like this, because that might confuse them a lot. Or is there any advice there? Or should I just say, okay, you learn the center way, you establish the I, and one day we'll tell that.
Yeah. I think, theoretically and philosophically, intellectually, teaching them this much of thing is, I feel, is too much for them. But instead of that, we can teach them mindfulness. We can teach them how to watch a certain process. Rather than being a victim of a particular process, how to watch a particular ongoing process. So that skill, if we cultivate in their mind, And one day when they are mature, probably they can even look at how the mind is working. Now currently we are targeting a very easy kind of a process. So let the body walk and you watch. Let the body breathe and you watch. So these are, in a way, we are preparing that vantage point. We are taking a step out. We find out a kind of a safe refuge so that we can be a kind of observer. But still the observer exists. Still Geshan exists, as we discussed. Still I exist, but I can see the body breathes. Doesn't matter. Okay, at least I am somewhat okay. Later I have to handle the I part, the subject part, the subtle part. So that is more subtle. So immediately we can't jump to that. Immediately we can't come to the recognition of I making, mind making. So rather we better avoid confusion, avoid the ongoing thinking, avoid the proliferation, avoid overthinking. So then only we may have a better position, better situation to address the very subtle I making, mind making. So for the time being, I think for the young children, we can't stop, they start using their names and recognizing the outside and dealing with the outside, starting the interacting with the outside, and they slowly prepare a self, become an individual. So we can't stop that. But interesting thing is we can teach them mindfulness. So one day when they are fairly mature, they can slowly look at the mind as well. So what's going on in the mind? How this mind thinks can be another stage that they can slowly recognize. Probably they may do it before us. Because we didn't have that sort of a mindfulness at the beginning, so we being adult, we have to develop that. But if we are helping our young children to develop mindfulness at their early stage, then they are blessed with this skill. So one day it's a matter of properly routing this concentration, routing this attention to the mind itself to sort of unwind the ongoing thinking.
Okay. So in a way, Bhante, I was just trying to gather from that. In a way, I think you have to have a centered, because as you said, when the child was born, baby, they are not arahat, right? It's just that they don't have that centered viewpoint, but they are not arahat.
Yeah.
In a way, you have to have that centered viewpoint and then understand that and then break away from that to become, right? Otherwise a baby would be known as arahat, right? You don't have that centered viewpoint.
No, actually, the interesting thing is either we teach them or educate them or not, they originally, they inherently have this anusaya. The conceit I am is a type of an anusaya, a type of a latent tendency. So with respect to other their sense interaction, they slowly prepare that. So we don't need to teach them. They will prepare that.
Okay. So I get this is why I was conflicted, because sometimes
we are promoting that in a way as teachers, as parents. As parents, we are expediting that in a way.
Yeah, and that's not conflicting to me, because I'm trying to get away from that. And now I'm expediting to that. You're doing something and you're telling the other thing to your child.
Yeah.
So I guess the best thing is to, I guess when you're walking or something, I try to tell, you look at your feet or do so just maybe establish little by little the mindfulness, walking and all. That might be the best.
Yeah. So very small things are good. Small practice, some simple practice. So slowly when it is cultivated in the mind, so they can see something without interfering it. So they know how to observe.
Okay.
They know how to observe, because typically what happens is we are simply fused with the experience. You know, when something is going on in the mind and when we are doing something, so that whatever the content of that activity is so interesting, and we completely fuse with it, we completely indulge with it, we don't know how to come out of it, we are entirely tangled in it.
Yes. Yeah, I observed that, but like at work and all that, like, there's a lot of I, like, that's how we normally do that, right? Saying, I did this, I'm doing this. So it's interesting to observe when you start going that far. Thank you, Bhante. Many Bhante. Thank you for explaining that. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. Next question can go to Moira.
Thank you. Bhante, it's so good to have you give us a Sutta class again.
Yeah.
The last few weeks I realized the gratitude I have for you, even if I were not able to tap into your classes in the future, how much clarity you have already given me in the last few months. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
My question is about I am. I have read a book saying that it's the 5 khandhas are the things that you attach to, saying I am experiencing this through my senses, I am feeling like this, these are my feelings, these are my perceptions and opinions, and these are my thoughts, and these are my consciousness. So my question is the I am, when you're saying conceived not just through the thought process but through all of the 5 khandhas?
Yes, correct, you are correct. So basically, I am this body, okay, I am this form, I am beautiful, I am ugly, I am tall, I am short, I am fat, I am fair. Now all these terminologies comes with respect to the body. At that moment we are associating particularly the form aggregate, the rupa khandha. With respect to rupa khandha, I have prepared a sense of I. So likewise in the vipassana practice, so we slowly have to recognize with respect to which khandha, with respect to which aggregate are we preparing this sense of I. So the kind of a, going against the grain, going against that pattern of thinking. Now we go deeper and penetrating and see, so with respect to which aggregate have I prepared this sense of I?
I also noticed that the thought proliferation happens in 2 instances. Number 1, because I'm retired now, there's no expectation of me from anyone. Because my husband doesn't expect much from me. I have no duty, so I'm free now. So because there's no external definition of who I should be, what I should be, there's a freedom. And secondly, I've forgotten the point I was going to make, but I think, so it could be like in the Metta Sutta, it says to be unburdened with duties. So if I am to attach to something and then go and gain duties to do this and do that for other people, all of a sudden, I think the I am becomes more, because the expectation is not there. I don't have to define myself with duties and responsibilities. And the other time the I comes up is when things are very unpleasant and I'm trying to fix something or resolve something. And then my mind is totally, my personality is always to fix things. So it comes up as a lot of thoughts where I can't turn off. I'm trying to get a solution to a problem.
Yeah, all these are possible. I mean, this is one avenue actually. This is one avenue that
so
we are.
So do you renounce?
Yeah. So basically, this is
one. Renounce these things?
Actually, rather than, I don't know, renouncing is one mechanism, but But if you can recognize it, you can understand it.
Yeah, I see it after the fact, not during the time, but afterwards.
Yeah.
During the time I'm caught up in it. In that moment I'm caught up in it and it's unpleasant.
Yeah.
And then later when I analyze it, I can see for what it was. Yeah. So that's the conceiving. I don't know how, the conceiving word is new to me. So conceiving with the 5 khandhas, I am. So it's a lot more subtler, like you say.
Yeah, it's a lot more subtler, and yeah, as one is continuing, so basically, so you may be able to understand the subtler nuances in the thinking. At first, we can't do that much of very subtle analysis, deep penetration into a particular thought. Now here we are talking at the thought level. A particular thought level, how the I being hidden, the sense of I being hidden. But typically we are not at that subtle, very, very penetrative way of observation. Rather we are at a very, gross level of observation. So as when one become more and more confident, one is more and more, one's practice is very sharp, mindfulness is very sharp, clear comprehension is very sharp, then only you can come to that much of subtle analysis, subtle understanding. So where this I am being hidden, where the I part is available in this particular thought.
Yeah. Thank you, Bhante.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And the next question is for Mahesha, so you can unmute.
Thank you, Sorry, Bhante. I thought I will give some ideas about the point that the previous person discussed about, how to tell to a child about being me. So I actually had a opportunity to talk with a young person like last week. And in that discussion, actually, the one thing that the person actually pointed out, I got surprised. So he said that the way that I have looked at his personality is very calm and like not getting disturbed with whatever happens outside the world or the around him. So so when he was telling, he said, in a way he thanked, like he's one of my actually person who I involved with. So I often see him. And he said, thank you very much. I learned a lot of things as adults from you all. And said, the way that he do things, it's surprising. Sometimes people comment like, oh, how you being so calm and why you are not getting disturbed with for the outside things. And then he said that the reason that he think back, and he realized that as a child, when he was small, he used to practice that when people are getting into a kind of a issue which troubling the mind, and when people are, sometimes doing things quickly and then getting stressed and doing this and that. For example, that he took like when an accident happened, we'll say a car crash with another car, and then people get off, and then sometimes they shout, sometimes they talk about it, and it's like a bit of a mess. Mm-hmm. So he said in a situation like that, he just watch. Mm-hmm. As a child, he just watch how people react, what people say, and he tried to not to analyze the situation, but he just watch. Mm-hmm. And then he keep watching how people do things now, because he's small then, and these are adults. So he watched, and then he realized at the end, somehow they come into a conclusion, and there's a resolution, and there's nothing remaining. So then he realized why people are so much getting trouble, taking so many minutes or hours talking about it, fighting for it, and then at the end it's solved. And
Exactly.
he didn't try to figure out when things happens to him. He thought, okay, just look, let what happen. And so when he is in school, when teachers try to, when he does things like, he said he does mischievous things sometimes, and then the teachers, getting a big picture of it and complain and do things and, taking a big story around, he just watch. He just calmly watch, and then teachers don't do anything, he said. And so he feel like, even though if I do something, that's the answer. Even if I don't do anything, that's the answer. So why should I involve? I just relax and watch. And then I asked also, how you thought that it's the way to do it? Then I actually realized what you teaching us all this time about looking at the mind concept. He's a born Buddhist, but went to the temple for Dhamma school, but that's all. And then grew up in a Western world, and I actually got so surprised. And then I asked, so do you do kind of meditation? Then said, I know meditation because in school we were taught about meditation, but I don't do it as a practice. But I'm really good at looking at when people are doing things, saying this, I just look at. And then I thought when you discuss about this, about, telling the other person about, when he has raised the question like how to do things with the small children, he said, I think 4-year-old or so. So what I thought, so when I heard this from this young person, I was thinking, what a thing I would have actually know about this, that children can do when they are young. And then I can actually teach to little kids when I see them, when I meet them, when I associate with them. Okay, what about you look at this? And, just we'll watch what's happening there and see what's the end of it. So it's like a little exercise we can do. And it's really, making a skill in them to be mindful, actually.
Definitely.
So I feel like it's like when something is happening, if you just keep looking calmly, and you realize the start of it, and then it's going on and it's ending of it, it's like, it's also exercise for the mind, appear and disappear, you watch it.
Correct.
And then at the end, you see that there's nothing remaining.
Yeah.
So that's a good exercise. Actually, we can teach that to the kids, because this child learn it by himself by looking at the world. Not knowing that it's actually what Dhamma is about.
No, basically,
I think that's not an answer.
No, on the other hand, I believe one thing is, now if we start developing this skill, even we can't attain, any kind of a Maggapala, this skill still start rooted in the mind. So even at another life, when you start again, so this skill will slowly come to the surface of your mind and you start doing it. So that is also mentioned in certain suttas like Sotanuddhata Sutta. So when one is developing these skills, so these skills are very very crucial skills actually in our mind. So typically the thing is, these observative skills are very much like suppressed in the mind. Instead, we being trapped in the ongoing story. We being trapped in the ongoing whatever the experience, rather than, as you said, observing it. Now, mindful observation is a kind of a skill we can develop and we can teach the children to develop. And slowly, once it is cultivated, they can apply it even to a subtle level. But at the beginning, we can teach them just to observe an ongoing process without being trapped in it, without participating in it, without interfering it. that's a very interesting skill that we can teach the children.
Yes, Bhante. And also he said that people keep asking from him, his friends, because he's in 20s, so people keep asking, how you stay like this, all these things happening, and how you stay calmly, what's the secret behind, why can't you involve, like that people ask him. He said, I'm just enjoying what you guys are doing, and there's nothing to involve, and I just watch, and I'm happy.
Correct.
And then people actually getting surprised.
Yeah.
And I actually have seen him like that, but I never asked, but this, when we having a conversation, it came up, and I was thinking, this is the secret of him being so calm all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
So he practiced it as a child, and now he is getting the fruits of it.
Exactly.
Young people, they get involved with a lot of things, and it's like, with the technology and everything, the life is so fast, but this person is very cool. And he's very slow with things, but he achieved things in his life very well.
Correct.
And he's a high achiever. And he said that I'm a high achiever, I think, because I don't get disturbed my mind, and I'm focused with whatever thing I'm doing at a time.
Correct. Exactly.
So that's very big. I mean, I feel like it's a beautiful thing to hear from a young person in today's world.
Definitely, yes. Definitely, yes.
And I thought I did share with, and the people who have kids and who are doing meditation, it's a good thing that, you can transfer that to the young people, where they will catch it quickly and easily, I believe.
Definitely, yes. Yeah, definitely, yes. Because, if we carefully, slowly, in a beautiful way, in an enjoyable way, if we are able to teach them this skill, then slowly they will catch it. They will see how to observe. They will understand how to observe rather than to react, rather than to get involved. And then that skill, as you said, will be really helpful when they are growing up.
Yes, he said even at work, people are, achieving targets, this and that, couldn't finish, they're getting stressed. And he said, doesn't matter, tomorrow there's another day. There's anything left, I'll do it tomorrow morning.
Okay.
So he think it's so cool. So I feel like it's really nice, even though, such meditation practice and trying hard, he's doing something. And that's also, I feel like it's part of Dhamma. That
definitely, yes.
Without knowing, he's practicing.
Yeah, actually, you can't say it is not meditation. It is the meditation in a way.
True. Bhante. Thank you, Bhante, for the opportunity. I hope this will help.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for that questions. And Bhante, I don't see anybody raising their hand. Question.
Okay, okay then we can wind up then, Keshan, because we have spent a little more than 1.5 hours. And so thank you very much for your participation, and to everyone who participated and even put their questions. And all the merit what we have accumulated through discussing Dhamma, to listening Dhamma, to going through the Buddha's teaching, all that merit we share with all the passed away relatives. We share these merits with all the celestial beings who are interested of this Buddha's teaching, and we share these merits with everyone who are in need of merits. And we wish these merits help us also to understand the Buddha's teaching and to the practice of to the best of our ability. We will use the traditional verses to share the merits. Ettavatacha amhehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavatacha amhehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavatacha amhehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe satta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Akasattha ca bummatta devanaga mahiddika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkantu sasanang. Akasattha ca bummatta devanaga mahiddika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkantu desanang. Akasattha ca bummatta devanaga mahiddika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkantu mamparang. Idang vo ñātīnaṃ hotu sukitā hontu ñātayo. ඉදං වෝ ඥාතිනං හෝතු සුඛිතා හොන්තු ඥාතයෝ ඉදං වෝ ඥාතිනං හෝතු සුඛිතා හොන්තු ඥාතයෝ ඉමිනා පුඤ්ඤ කම්මේන මාමේ බාල සමාගමෝ සතං සමාගමෝ හෝතු යාව නිබ්බාන පත්තියා සාදු සාදු සාදු